Hey guys, Bird Yugioh here. So today coming at you with the much requested budget Sky Striker deck. This might be budget, but it is still extremely powerful. Just some of the card choices I made. You can always opt out for more expensive ones, but I of course went with the more budget options as far as like even like hand traps go. And actually, there's even some cards in here that were a little more expensive when I was building this, but now with some newly released cards, it's even cheaper. Unfortunately, though, one card, Rose, actually is going up in price a little bit. It's about double what I paid for it. I believe I was around like 4. Now it's looking like 9 or 10, I believe, for one of her. But that's just because of the recent success of this deck. Because people are finding out that it is actually still pretty decent. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get right into this one. Starting off with your main card that you want to see as far as like a normal summon Sky Striker monster. There's only 2 of them, but Ray is extremely good. She has a quick effect on the field where you just tribute, and then you can special summon a Sky Striker Ace from your extra deck. And then while this is in your graveyard, if a Sky Striker Ace Link monster is destroyed by battle or leaves the field, because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card. So very, very good. You know, it allows the deck to flow and just makes the deck that much better. So really, really good card. And then I mentioned it. Sky Striker Ace Rose is also it's good. It's not as good as Ray, but if a Sky Striker Ace monster is normal or special summoned, you can special summon this card from your hand. So that's basically the only way you're going to use this. It's got another effect if an opponent's monster in the extra monster zone is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of your card effect while this card is in your graveyard. You can special summon this. Then you can negate the effects of a face-up monster your opponent controls. So that effect doesn't come up too often just because it is very, very specific. But again, it's just another tool for Sky Strikers to use. But the main... This allows you to go into a rank 4 that we play. I'll get to that later on, but very, very good, that whole little package there. And then that's it basically for the monsters as far as Sky Striker goes. It's mostly a spell deck, so you can fill the rest with hand traps, and we are doing so with 3 Effect Veiler. Again, very budget option. But it's also very good because you can use it more than once per turn if you happen to draw this in multiples. And just going to negate the effects of a face-up monster on the field. So really good. Another good budget hand trap that is still extremely good. Ghost Ogre. It doesn't negate effects, but when an effect is activated, or when a spell and trap on the field activates its effect, you can send this from your hand, and then it destroys that card. So it's a good way of getting rid of cards, you know, like some of those continuous spells or field spells that people are playing. Or, again, just like monsters that your opponent gets on the field. And then 2 DD Crow. Again, another nice budget option, and does very good against a lot of decks that are trying to activate, targeting cards in their graveyard. You can then chain this, target it, and banish it so that they can't do their combos and whatnot. But, yeah, it's going to mess up a lot of decks, DD Crow. So that's it for the monsters. You can always play more hand traps if you want to, if you're more comfortable with that. But I like 8. I think that's perfect for this deck. On to the spells, which are the gist of the deck. We got 3 Area 0. This card is really good. You either want to send this to the graveyard, but it's also got a good on-the-field effect. You can target one other card you control, you excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can add an excavated Sky Striker card from your hand, and then you send the targeted card to the graveyard. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard by any card effect, you can special summon a Sky Striker Ace from your deck. So that's another great way of getting, Rose or Ray out, whichever one you need or want. So that card is very nice, and we do have a few ways of getting this off the board. to get that special summon effect if you need it. Otherwise, its field zone effect is pretty good as well. And the best card for Sky Strikers now is Widow Anchor. You max out on it too. It's an amazing card. You just target a face-up effect monster, negate its effects. If you have 3 or more spells, you can take control of it. Really good. It's a quick play. You always want to be getting this. It's a lot of times on your first turn, it's your search during your end phase with Shizuku. It's just so good. So we play 2 Shark Cannon. Some people play 3. I definitely like 2. Basically, you just target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. And then if you have 3 or more spells, you can special summon it to your field instead. The only problem with that is it can't attack, but that's really good. Just taking control of a monster in your opponent's graveyard is pretty dang good. And then we play for another quick play. These are the quick plays I'm going over first. Hornet Drones. It's so good. Just for getting easy access to your link monsters. It's getting you a token that you can then link into, whatever you need for your Sky Striker links. And then a card that I'm really liking now, it's been doing wonders. Afterburners. If you have to control no monsters in the main monster zone. That's pretty much all of them. You target a face-up monster on the field and destroy it. Simple as that. And if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can destroy 1 spell and trap on the field as well. So 2 really good effects. Aren't always going to get that spell and trap pop, but that's a way of obviously getting rid of Area 0 to then get a special summon off of that, or getting rid of a problem spell and trap that your opponent has, and obviously getting rid of a monster as well. So really good card. And then another one, Jamming Waves. It can be really good depending on what deck you're playing, because this one targets a set spell and trap on the field and destroys it. And if you have 3 or more spells, you can destroy a monster on the field as well. So against most decks, Afterburners is going to be better. But I do side usually a second Jamming Waves, just for those super control-y decks that play a lot of back row. They like to set a lot of cards. This card is very good. And then we also are playing a multi-roll. This is, again, another good way of getting rid of Area 0 so that you can get that special summon. You just target another card you control, send that to the graveyard. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your spell cards for the rest of this turn. So that's really good protection for you. And then during your end phase, you can set Sky Striker spells with different names from your graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spells you activated. So I've, even set like 3 cards from my graveyard that I already used. Like Widow Anchor, Afterburners, I can't remember the other one. And you just freely get to just set those back to your field. It's really good. It's best, obviously, with Area 0. You use Area 0's effect, then you use multi-roll to then get that special summon. And you can potentially gain a lot of advantage with multi-roll. And then a really cool card that I'm liking is Scissors Cross. You just target a level 4 Sky Striker Ace in your graveyard. So that's Rose or Ray. You can add it to your hand. If you have 3 or more spells, you can special summon it instead. 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can special summon that instead. So that allows you to easily go into a Utopia double, basically. And so that's why we play 1 double or nothing. You never want to see this card, but, it's inevitable. Sometimes you do. And we play some other cards as well that I'll get to where you might not even be able to do that. But it's nice to have this option of being able to go into Utopia double and just steal a game just simply by having 2, a Ray and your Rose on the field. You can just steal a game. We play Terraforming to search out your Area 0. Reinforcement of the Army to search out your Ray or your Rose. And then Mind Control is just so good. Definitely play this if you're playing Sky Strikers. You should be playing this, especially since we have Zeke, this card becomes just insane. So definitely play Mind Control. And then I am choosing to play Pot of Desires. There's a lot of reasons for it. Mostly the cards coming up you'll see. But Pot of Desires in this deck, because you are able to search still. And most of the time you're able to recycle stuff. So having just like one of each of these is normally plenty. Obviously banishing all of your Widow Anchors would be terrible. But, and like I said, this card, this is the one I mentioned at the beginning that it is even cheaper now because of the new set that just came out. You can get these for, I believe, under $2 a piece. So really good draw power. And then we play one Upstart Goblin. We're playing 40 cards, so this just allows us to get to some of our combo pieces or just our control cards in general. And then the last 6 cards are ones that I catered to this format in particular, and I feel they just do very, very well against some of the top decks. Obviously not all of them, you can't cover all your bases, but they do well against a lot of decks. And that's 3 Cosmic Cyclone and 3 There Can Only Be One. So that's the last of the cards we play. Basically, obviously we know this is going to be just getting rid of a spell and trap. Very, very good. And then your opponent can only control, well, each player can only control one monster of each type. And so it usually doesn't really affect you because you're only going to have one Link monster on the field. But if you ever need to shut it down, Cosmic Cyclone, that's why 3 and 3 of these I think is perfect. You can get rid of it if you need to. But, against like Adamanticators and, just a lot of the good decks, this is killer to them. And it doesn't really hurt you as much, especially after you're getting to your links and able to set a few cards. One of them being There Can Only Be One is pretty good. So that is the main deck. Extra deck, of course, I'm going to play 3 Kagari. When it's summoned, you just add a Sky Striker spell from your graveyard to your hand, and it also gains 100 attack for each spell in your graveyard. And then we got 3 Hayate. This is your main battle phase one, because it can attack directly, and then after damage calculation, if this card battled, you can send a Sky Striker card from your deck to your graveyard. So sometimes you don't want to, you don't go into Kagari first. You go into Hayate, and then main phase 2, then you would go into Kagari to add back that card that Hayate sent to the graveyard. So that's a way of basically just searching anything from your deck. And then Shizuku is very, very good. Monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each spell in your graveyard. So this one's going to reduce your opponents, and Kagari will gain your monsters. Or this card will gain attack. And then during the end phase, you can add a Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand with a different name from the cards in your graveyard. That's the only stipulation, but still very good. You're just adding, like I said, usually like a Widow Anchor if you don't have it, or whatever you need. Afterburners is really nice too. We play 1 Kaina. It's okay. That's why we only play 1. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls. It cannot attack until the end of your opponent's turn. And then each time you activate a Sky Striker spell card, you gain 100 life points. So it's a way of getting some life points and obviously making sure an opponent's monster is not going to be able to attack. And then Zeke is very, very good. I've just keep on thinking about bumping it up to 2, but for now, 1 is just fine. When it's special summoned or link summoned, you can target a face-up monster on the field, banish it until your opponent's next end phase, and then once per turn you can target another card you control. This card gains 1,000 attack, and then you send the targeted card to the graveyard. So again, with Area 0, that becomes, you're gaining this card 1,000, plus you're special summoning a Sky Striker Ace from your deck. So very, very good. And then just some generic ones we're playing. Phoenix comes up every now and then same with Unicorn. It's just good to have them in there as options. And then we play, of course, the Utopia and the Utopia Double. Again, it's just good options to have, and then just a token. Like I said, you don't always go into it, especially with Pot of Desires. Potentially, sometimes banishing your double or nothing. It doesn't happen as much as you think, but yeah, just stealing games is basically all that card does. So that is the deck, guys. Hope you liked it. I know a lot of you were looking forward to it. Again, if you're not a fan of Pot of Desires, obviously I am. I played in a lot of decks. You can definitely cut those for other cards. You could always play a second Jamming Waves. Ego Booster is sometimes pretty cool. Hercules Base is again another one. Can sometimes be cool, but I cut them basically to make room for the Desires, and there can only be one, and Cosmic Cyclone. But yeah, that is it, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.